Gotta go.
All right, Tammi Thurm, welcome to Not Just Headlines.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So you've been on council since 2017, and a lot of your colleagues are stepping down right now. So why are you choosing to keep going instead of just calling it a day?
I really am one of those that wants to see projects through. And we've got so many good things starting right now that I think it's important that we have some continuity to make sure some of the projects we've started on, and particularly a passion project that I have, actually comes to fruition.
And back in 2017, you said that you were running to focus on job creation, affordable housing, transparency, and keeping Greensboro welcoming. So it's 7 years later. Has that platform changed at all? And do you have any plans to pivot that?
It's changed slightly, though those things are still very important to me. I think we've had some great success with bringing jobs to Greensboro. Jet Zero and Marshall and Boom, sorry, my mind went blank, along with Toyota. And of course, a number of small companies have come to Greensboro or are coming to Greensboro. But it's critical now that housing take number one slot. Housing for folks at all different income levels. Certainly workforce housing. We've got to have more homes here that people can afford to live in. And that's a huge thing. It's a huge undertaking. You've heard the road to 10,000 homes that the city manager initiated. But that doesn't happen automatically. And it takes some folks that kind of have experience, that have seen what works, what doesn't work, to get that moving forward. And so I decided to run one more time.
Are those some of the projects you're looking to see through? Are there any other projects that you're passionate about that you really want to continue working on?
Absolutely. I have been working for some time now on bringing permanent supportive housing to Greensboro for those folks that are experiencing homelessness. It's a huge issue in our community. It affects so many different areas. And it's been tough to bring to our community. I am really excited that we've identified a location. We're very close to securing the property. I've been working with a group of individuals in the community that are willing to help us raise a significant amount of money to make sure that PSH becomes a reality in our community. Something that folks can be proud of to live in, and a place where people can get back on their feet.
Absolutely. And other than housing, which is a big issue, what are some of your other big platform issues, and how do they affect people who aren't necessarily as plugged into politics?
I think one of the big things is the need for investment into parks and recreation in District 5. We have focused very heavily on investing in Parks and Rec. I know you're aware of the new Windsor Chavis NOCO Center, which is a great project coming along in District 2. But when you look at the numbers, we really have not invested in the Parks and Rec offerings in District 5. And that's something we desperately need to do. You look at the tennis courts at Hester Park. They are in really, really bad shape. And I want to make sure that that park doesn't move any further behind. And in fact, it gets the attention that it needs for the residents that live around there.
And we've spoken that is a need in District 5. And so how would you describe District 5 for someone who's maybe not necessarily been there?
District 5 is one of the most diverse districts in Greensboro. It is diverse in terms of economically, it's diverse in terms of racially, in terms of religion, and in terms of languages spoken. District 5 runs from the north side of New Garden Road, kind of near Lowe's grocery store, out past the airport to the farmer's market. It runs down across Interstate 40 and Stanley Road area, all the way up to the edge of High Point, goes out to Grandover, around the Smith High School, and actually goes almost all the way around to Randleman Road on the south part of the city. So it's a great big crescent. But it's a very, very diverse population, which is what makes it so special to me.
Mm-hmm. And when people in your district talk to you, what are they most concerned about? And then how do you actually approach helping them?
Those concerns are all over the board. They really are, whether it be flooding in some areas. When I first came on board, we had problems with beavers in some areas, so I had to learn all about beavers. Yeah. But everything from those kinds of things to certainly traffic is a big issue in my district. Crime is an issue in some parts of my district. So it's a little bit about everything, and you have to get to know the neighborhoods to really be able to help folks and address the issues that they're having at any point in time.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you support public safety by increasing police pay and benefits, but the number of officers being sworn in has dropped drastically. So what is causing that? And how do you think the decrease in that is actually affecting the community?
Well, actually, we had a big decrease a few years ago.
Yes.
Since we made the adjustment in officer compensation,
okay,
we have actually had much bigger classes coming along, and we are close to, with our next class, I think we'll be close to fully staffing the approved positions, which is really exciting. With that next group, once they're on board, we can go back to having things like a traffic division, which you hear constantly is a problem for residents, and dealing with, red light runners and speeding and racing and those kinds of things. I'm very proud of the work we did to bring their compensation up and benefits up to be competitive. And now we're among the highest paid in the state. And I think that's really helped make a difference.
That's great, because I know I did the Police Citizens Academy, and I know that was a big thing that they were talking about, wanting to give the officers getting more of them. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's great. We've had some full classes come through, so that's been good news.
Mm-hmm. And you've also pushed for housing development. So what is getting in the way in certain areas of getting that really increasing the amount of housing development that we have, and what can the council actually do to build affordable homes?
Well, Greensboro Council itself doesn't build homes. But what we can do is create programs that make it easier for developers to build affordable homes. And that's going to be a big issue in the next 4 years. We're looking at things like how can Greensboro help with the infrastructure, with the water and sewer and the roads that need to go into new neighborhoods? What can we do as a city to help so the developer doesn't have to absorb all that cost, which then increases the cost of housing? And how can we be careful about doing that and making sure that we're not giving high profit developers just more money to put in their pockets, but we're really accomplishing our goal of getting good, solid workforce housing in the community.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And let's go back to around 2017. What originally inspired you to run for office back then?
To be honest, Nancy Hoffman had put a bug in my ear several years prior to that. But when Trump won the first time, it was really a shock to my system and to my sensibilities. And I was sitting around with a bunch of girlfriends at the time, and we were talking about, how did this happen? How did the country elect Donald Trump as the president? And I made the comment that, if people were happier at home in their home communities, maybe they wouldn't want to vote for such drastic change. And we got to talking about, what does voting in your home community look like, and how is that impacted? And I noted that the person that previously held this seat really had no competition in the 2 terms prior to that. And he ran unopposed, and what a shame it was that he ran unopposed. And so, how girlfriends talk, and they were like, well, you could do it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, maybe. And then it just developed from there. And I realized, while I'm pretty much of an introvert at heart, that I could do this, and just decided to go for it, that it was important.
And what has kept you motivated since?
I think the great interactions I have with residents. When we can get something accomplished and they say, thanks, we really needed that, or you made a difference. Those things just keep you juiced. The big projects come once every few years that you can really touch and have a giant impact on. But it's the little things. We're having a problem with parking in our neighborhood. We need to change the speed limit in our neighborhood. This abandoned house in our neighborhood needs attention. And when you can accomplish and make life better for folks, that's what jazzes me. That's what keeps me enthusiastic about the job.
And you talk to a lot of people in your job. So what have some of the conversations been with younger people, and what would you say is the most and the biggest concern addressing that generation, so my generation?
I think having a place to live and being able to find a place to call home that they can afford. I have a granddaughter or a couple granddaughters in your age range, and the cost of living is just so high. And, young people are graduating, they're getting out of school, they're looking for opportunities. I would say 7 years ago, it was, there are no jobs here. Well, now there are jobs coming, and there are exciting jobs coming, but people can't afford to live here. I had my very first apartment cost $110 a month. And I was scared to death when I signed that 6-month lease. I was like, how am I ever going to come up with that much money? But now it's like multiple thousands of dollars a month for that same 2-bedroom apartment. And we just need to make sure that young people can afford to live here and stay here and take advantage of the jobs that we're bringing.
Absolutely. And then are there any other projects specifically in District 5 that you want to highlight, or any resources that maybe is not widely talked about, but you still want to highlight here today?
I think District 5 is one of the fastest growing. We've got so many new apartments and things coming to my district, so much construction that it's very, very exciting. We need to make sure that we have great services for people, regardless of where they live in the district, so that they've got, they can walk to shopping areas and, walk to a local coffee shop to enjoy themselves and socialize. Great restaurants. And again, investing in the parks in our district. We like to think of everybody being able to, in Greensboro, being able to walk to a park. That's not true in District 5, and we need to make it true for the district.
And then what's one thing about your professional background that shapes how you lead today?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. My background is in working with large family-owned businesses. That was my professional career. And that gave me insights into hearing not only what employers and employees are saying, but what they're not saying, and understand some of the dynamics of what's going on. Very similar to when we have a zoning issue or something like that come up. When you listen to what people are saying, but you have to dig just a little bit deeper to get the real meat of the story and what they want and what they need. So I think that helps. Certainly my background in finance is a huge benefit when I look at the city budget and dealing with a budget and budget limitations, but also looking at things like how can we make the housing that we need so desperately affordably? How can we partner on things like that? And how can we look at things more holistically about as we move forward?
And then my last question for you is, what if someone approached you on the street and was like, hey, I see you're running for office again. Why should I give you my vote?
I think because I show up for the community. It doesn't matter who you are in the community. I will talk to you. I'll be responsive to you. I may not be able to solve your problem or the issue that you're dealing with because I can't fix everything. But I'm going to be there and I'm going to be there with you. And you can call me. You can run into me at the grocery store. You can talk to me anywhere, anytime. And if I don't answer the phone, I'll call you back. And I am happy to put in the work that it takes to accomplish what needs to be done.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thank you. Hi, Lilybugs. I'm Lily Otis, journalism student and founder of Not Just Headlines. And did you know that 95% of the people who watch our videos aren't even subscribed to the YouTube channel? And if we've helped you at all, we're just asking you to do one thing to support our mission: subscribe, because we want to make sure that everyone is voting local, not just headlines. Jeannette Davidson-Mayer, welcome to Not Just Headlines.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate the invite.
No problem. I wanted to get started by asking you to describe the district you're looking to represent. If someone's never been there before, or maybe they just heard about it, what makes it special to you?
It's home, for starters, and for me, that's a big deal because being an Air Force brat, moving around all the time, Idaho was the first place I've ever lived the longest, and now Greensboro is where I want to make my second, actually like the idea of even retiring here. The community, the area, the district I'm representing, I have to say it is a lot of homes. There's a lot of apartments, there's a lot of homes, there's just a lot of good feels there of people that want to also call Greensboro their home.
And were you in Idaho because of the military? And I only asked because my brother's in the military. He's out there in Idaho. And so I don't know if the military experience kind of correlates with that.
A little bit, yes, there is some. Yep. There's ties to the military back in Idaho, definitely.
Okay, so what kind of brought you in here to kind of make Greensboro your home permanently now?
Well, there's a few different things. My sister and her husband moved out here several years ago, and coming out here to visit, I always thought, wow, this is so beautiful. And then it's close to fun places that when I traveled for work, I never got to actually go tour because I was traveling for work. And then my veteran had met and exceeded the care capabilities on the western side of the United States. We'd gone to several places and they had all said he just wasn't going to fit there. Now, it's not just in the VA world, it's also in the private sector. Medical advancements haven't migrated all the way west yet. And it's a little slow sometimes to get them out there. There's a heavy population of veterans over here, and there's also a lot more schools, medical schools over here. So that's another thing. So, there's just more people, population. And my sister and I were researching where to bring him. Salisbury VA has a great polytrauma and traumatic brain injury reputation, and Boston has another one too, but I didn't want to live in Boston. I wanted to live where I could be clear with family, so moved out here so my veteran can have more advanced health care, and I could be close to my sister again, and I love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what kind of made you want to run for office? Have you considered it before? What was that journey for you to make that decision?
I've been interested in politics ever since I was in high school, and I was 2-term city council back in Idaho. I'm very active in politics back in Idaho. I find it very enjoyable to be a part of, and I know the city level, the county level, the local level offices is where we can make the biggest impact for hopefully the majority of our citizens. And that's why I wanted to continue to run here in Greensboro now that I know this is for sure going to be a long-term stay.
And what do you think your district needs the most of right now that you're looking forward to tackle on city council?
Well, I know we have a small impact, but property taxes is a huge topic. I know a lot of us have seen our taxes go up double and more than double in prices. So we'd like to see if there's a way to influence getting our property taxes to quit rising. We have a lot of people on fixed incomes or low income and throughout the whole county, not just in Greensboro alone, that they're getting taxed out of their homes. They own their homes free and clear, but they don't own their home because of property taxes. I know safety is another big issue. We've seen a lot of safety issues and crime increase even in my little subdivision that I live in. And it would be nice to find ways to help empower our law enforcement to be able to do their jobs more efficiently and work with them on what that means for them as well. And then I am a huge, being born and raised in the military, having been married to a military man for so many years, military is huge to me. And it's not just our men and women that have served, it's also the families that serve along with them. And I work with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation as well as have my own nonprofit, and that's what we serve, are what's called the Hidden Heroes, and making sure that our veterans that have caregivers are taken care of so that they can continue to take care of our heroes.
Wow. So what does the first 90 days look for you if you get into office?
It's going to be a lot of investigating, asking questions, getting down into the nitty-gritty of what is happening within the city, what's making it work, getting forensic audits of each individual department going, looking for inefficiencies, duplications, processes that we forgot are working that we need to move on. One of the things that happens with government is we'll have programs start, and it is the worst definition of eternity on life. Eternity on earth, not life, eternity on earth, because they never die. And we need to see what programs have not evolved to fit the new needs and evolving of the community as well.
And what have you heard from the community on what they would like to see implemented? And I know conversations grow around the same topics. So what are some of that community feedback you've been hearing?
Safety, leaf pickup, and taxes. Those are the things when I'm out talking to people that I hear the most, because the property taxes affect renters as well, because their rent prices will go up. Homelessness is a huge one. And not just homelessness, but displacement, because we have some people that have lost homes due to a lot of different reasons. And we need to figure out what's happening so we can hopefully, if you can't put the Band-Aid on it, you have to get to the root cause. And if you can get to the root cause, then you can start developing what efficiencies can be done to move away from that. But leaf pickup is a huge one, especially as we're heading into fall. People want the old school
so there's
leaf vacuuming back up.
There's been a lot of drama around that for the past few years. So maybe some of my younger listeners who are new adults and haven't heard about what's happening, or maybe they're just like, oh, this is just a regular switch that's happening. Why are people concerned about this?
Well, first of all, the city increased their budget for this department, got a new truck, got the new for those that are homeowners or renters in homes. We have these new gray bucket bins, trash cans that are for landscape waste. And it used to be you could rake up your leaves, put them in clear bags on the street corner, and or the curb, and they would come and pick them up. Well, there was some inefficiencies happening there, and the city did try to make some efficiencies by going to these trash cans, and you have to put them in paper bags that are biodegradable versus the plastic bags, because the plastic bags weren't always getting opened up at the dump because they were getting so many, they were getting overwhelmed at the dump, and it was just this ugly spiral. So it's like, and then also when people would put their leaves out at the street, they would put bigger sticks and stuff, and then it would break the machine, and the machine would be broke down for quite a while. And there's a lot of things that are going, and I can see the pros and cons. Where I lived in Idaho, we didn't have a lot of leaves, and we did have to rake them, and then we had to haul them off ourselves. So it's one of these things that I'm like going, okay, mindset of what the people are used to. Change is hard. We need to implement this, look at this program to see what needs to be implemented more efficiently. And it is hard on the city because they did have to take a bunch of crew that did regular waste disposal and put them on leaf disposal or leaf pickup. And so then garbage disposal got behind, and then leaf disposal got behind because the machine kept breaking down. And I don't know, I'm not sure what the answer would be for that. That would be one of the things, because we haven't seen the full transparency on everything that's happening to get to a solution that'll work good. Me personally, just because I think there's nothing wrong with us doing a little bit of work, put them in a disposable bag and put them on the curb, and maybe have some dumpsters around the city that could be drop-off sites for refuge like this, but that can also cause some problems too. And I don't know what the right solution is. I just know that there's nothing wrong with putting them in biodegradable bags versus plastic.
Well, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes
There,
that people
there,
just,
yeah,
you know.
there's, yeah, and that's the thing, is we got to figure out what's happening behind the scenes. You were very right there.
So I think this is a good topic to discuss, keeping our elected officials accountable, or even when there is disagreements, how to navigate that. So what is your process? How are you preparing? And what would you like to see from the community when you take office, hopes, and what would you like that process to be like if the community has concerns, and how that you would like to be held accountable, essentially?
Well, first of all, we need to have complete transparency of everything that's happening. That's why I was saying about the forensic audit. And then we need to make sure that the public has full access to all the elected officials, including the city manager, even though the city manager is not an elected official. The city manager needs to have that 100% public face so that the city can come in and talk. I would love to have more town halls when we have them in different areas around the city. I know a lot of people are really excited about Barber Park. It's a great place. They have great facilities there. But I know people don't want to drive from one end of the city to the other because it's a 30-minute drive depending on traffic, and they don't want to go to Barber Park. So we have these great recreational places that we can hold town halls throughout the city, so residents have an opportunity to come and we can listen to them. And I do believe we should have a mobile city council meeting every now and then where we go to these different areas so that way people can see that we're accessible. Transparency, accessibility, and I love that we do live now, and that continued on after COVID. I know when I have put in to speak at a city council, I've had great communication with the person. They've put up my PowerPoints, but there was no follow-up afterwards. And we need to make sure that when there is someone that does a public, and they do come in and do their 5 minutes or 3 minutes, that we get feedback from the council, especially when there's a request made at the event. I don't know, it's just open to ideas too. Always open to ideas. If anybody has a suggestion on what they want, let's hear it out.
Absolutely. And
because I'm just one person and it's a group.
Yeah, it's a group and it's a lot of teamwork. So how are you navigating the expectation of going in to a lot of different voices and different priorities? People want to prioritize their district, but it's all about the votes to make sure that something gets done. So what is your leadership style that you're looking to bring on, and how are you willing to collaborate with all these different members?
I love your questions. Absolutely love your questions. You are a very well thought out young lady. Thank you. I do believe in collaboration, and if we have a city council person that does not want to collaborate, then we need to make sure that city council person is called out, and people in their district know that this is what's happening. We need to make sure there are no behind the doors, no closed doors meetings, as much as possible open door meetings so people hear what's happening and know what's happening. We need to have key players at the table for any major decisions that are happening. And I mean key players beyond the city, not just our city employees. We need to make sure we have developers and real estate, schools, medical, things like that. Because if we added, this is just by example, if we add a new subdivision, how much is that subdivision potentially going to affect the school district or the schools in that area? So we need to have the schools be aware. We need to have county involved. There's got to be some cross communication, not just with this with us as city council people, but with other key players throughout the whole city and county. And we may need to even bring in some people from the state too.
Wow. And then in the next 4 years after your term, what would you like people to say about you and how you represented them? Kind of what is your motto for your time? Kind of like, what's your slogan you're looking to bring in?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that. That is a great question. Oh, you're good. I want people to know that I listen, that they're heard, their voices are definitely heard, that their voices are represented on the city council, because that is huge. And I want people to know that, yes, leadership is following. You do good so people want to follow, but as city council, I want to learn from you guys of what you want so I can do my best to implement it into the city. And what affects one district affects another district, affects another district. So it is working hard to get collaboration going and transparency.
And what do you think about the whole vision of Greensboro as a whole? Because you are representing your district for sure,
Yeah.
but there's also going to be a priority of seeing Greensboro thrive as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people talk about the different businesses they're bringing in and things like that. So is there any work that you are excited to see that will be helping in your district, but also Greensboro as a whole, since you love it here now?
Well, I am near the airport, and we do have Boom and Jet Zero coming in, which will be huge for some potential living wages, and which is so needed. We need to have wage jobs brought in. We need to work with the county and the state on any economic development breaks that we can give. And when we give an economic development break of some kind or an incentive of some kind, we need to make sure that the company is also giving an incentive back to the city and not just in living wages. We need to find out what is their niche, what is their passion on picking Greensboro as their city. I'm just going to pick that, Jet Zero really wants to see a trade school program for our high school kids. I'm just saying this philosophically here. Well, then part of those incentives that we give is that they need to do some kind of incentive with the high school or with a college where kids can be bussed in to do an aerodynamics school of some kind. It's just one of those things. We've got to find that give and take and get back to that neighbor helping neighbor, and that includes businesses giving back to their community.
For sure. And then with that being said, what would you like to tell young people with your time in office and local politics, when they're asking, how can I get involved? What should I do? Because it can be scary and not everyone wants to take that 5 minutes, 3 minutes or so and go up and speak to the entire council. So you are a person and people can come up and talk to you, but a lot of times we don't. So how can young people who are interested in politics get into it in a way that's not so scary to them?
Well, join a political party of their choice. A lot of those political parties have the young, you have your young Republicans and your young Democrat groups. Those would be a place where they could go and learn from. The colleges have good active groups on both of those. It's a good place to go and learn. I say don't just join one of them and that's the only one you join. I say go to both meetings until you figure out what fits you, and go in with an open mind, because we all go in sometimes with these blinders on and we forget that there's more, like as you said, behind the scenes, there's more to it and we need to learn and grow. And part of that scaredness is that confidence that we have to build up in ourselves. And I know there's times I'm even scared. I was scared to come in here today too. It's one of those things, just you got to take that chance. And if one of your political people is not approachable, just remember it's not you. It's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on that political person. And try the next candidate or try the next elected official. Keep trying. And if I am not approachable, I need to be called out. I need the young people to say, hey, Jeannette, stop. I need you to listen. And make me stop and listen, because we all get caught up. And younger generation, we need to hear your voice. You guys see things way differently than we do. You guys had to live through the pandemic a lot differently than we did. And we need to know how the world is evolving so that our strategic plan can be more flexible to fit as our younger generations continue to grow up. And one of the sayings that we always use in the military is Semper Gumby, which means always flexible. I don't know if you know the Green Gumby guy. Oh, look it up sometimes. He's hilarious.
Okay.
Definitely old school. But he's hilarious. Nothing, it's mindless but funny. And it's just one of those uplifting things. But yeah, you're always flexible. And a strategic plan is good when you have 5, 10 years out, but you always have to have that flexible piece, because what we're predicting may not be what happens, and we've got to be able to adjust that strategic plan to fit our next generations. And we're not going to know if you guys don't let us.
And with that being said, if someone did get the courage to come and approach you and was like, okay, I've seen your name floating around, I've watched the interview, why should I give you my vote? What would your response be?
Because it's me. No, I'm kidding. Because I come with a fresh perspective. I come to Greensboro with new eyes. I come with experience, dedication, and care for not only our city, but everything that happens around in our county and our state.
Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This has been exciting.
No problem.